I'm Fee. Welcome to the Backlog Quest. Today I'll be talking about the first fiction books that I read this year, and they are the Three Dark Crowns series by Kendare Blake. I read the first book in the Three Dark Crowns series over Christmas. I had planned to read book 2 and 3 in January. However, I had a lot of trouble getting a physical copy of the second book since it was sold out everywhere, and in the end I had to get that book on Kindle. I didn't buy the second book when it came out since I wasn't sure whether I'd like this series or not. If I don't like the first book in a series and it doesn't catch my attention in any way, I won't read the remainder of the series. The reason I purchased the first book in the first place is because the synopsis caught my attention. In every generation on the island of Fenbur, a set of triplets is born, the three queens, all equal heirs to the crown, all possess a convented magic. Mirabella, a fierce elementalist, can spark flames with the click of a finger. Catherine, a poisoner, is known to be resistant to the deadliest of snakebites. Arsino, a naturalist, is rumoured to have the ability to bloom the reddest of roses. But becoming the queen is not just a matter of royal birth order. These three sisters must fight to the death for the throne, and on the night they turn 16, a battle will begin. Only one queen can inherit the crown. Whose side are you on? To me that sounded interesting. Fight to the death, royal families, and a fantasy setting with magic. And it was interesting. I loved it. I loved the Three Dark Crowns so much that I avoided reading other fiction books until I could get my hands on the second book, because I didn't want another series to push aside my desire for this series. This is something that I only do when I get hooked on a series and I don't have an overly long wait for the next book in the series. If I push something aside for too long, not just books but also TV series and games, I don't always finish them despite loving them. I normally have 2 or 3 different fiction books on the go at a time when I'm in a reading mood, so after I finished book 1, I read more non-fiction books than I normally would read until I could start reading book 2. My expectations going into this series was that I would have 3 characters that I would fall in love with that I would not want to die. I expected to sit there going, I like this about this character, I like that about that character. I fell in love during the first book with sweet poisoner Catherine, who wasn't cut out to be queen, who loved her snake that she called Sweetheart. I also loved Arsino, the naturalist, who didn't yet have a familiar or powers like the other naturalists around her. She was a tomboy of the sisters and didn't want to be forced to wear dresses or act like a queen should. I was fond of Mirabella, the strongest of the queens, whose powers came to her more easily than her sister. She also had a close friendship with the girls in the temple that she was raised with. And despite being the strongest sister, she was kind-hearted and had fond memories of her sisters when they were children. The first book in the series is slow. It's mostly world building for the rest of the series, which is something that I don't mind because it helps me get more invested with the world that I'm reading and the characters that I'm reading about. As I'll be talking about the second and third books, I'll be going into spoilers now, so if you haven't read this series and plan to, this is the time to leave. I will try to avoid too many spoilers, but there is definitely some major ones. Throughout the first book, I had guessed very early on that Catherine and Arsino had to have been switched, since neither of them showed the talents for what they were supposed to be born with. The Aaron family who'd raised Catherine had tried to build up her immunity with different poisons since they believed Catherine either had no gift, a weak gift, or was too late to come into a gift. Arsino, who also showed no talent as a naturalist, was taught low magic by Marigold Malone, who raised her. They ended up binding a bear to her so they could fake her having a familiar with the help of Marigold's daughter Jules, who was also Arsino's best friend, who was a very strong naturalist who was able to help calm the bear. Low magic has consequences and is looked down upon, and we get to see some of those consequences play out throughout the book as Arsino develops more and more low magic, or as Arsino practices more and more low magic to be more accurate. At the end of the third book, I myself am not sure of Catherine's true gift. I don't think it was actually stated outright anywhere that she is a naturalist. If it is, I've missed it. But I'm assuming that she is a naturalist because she has a strong affinity to her snake Sweetheart and to her horse. But other than that, there's nothing actually shown, and I don't think it's actually outright stated. If it is, I've missed it. And book 2 and 3, we're no longer actually following Catherine as we knew her in the first book. At the end of book 1, she's pushed into a place called the Briaca Domain by her friend and lover, Pietri Renard of the Aaron family. This is a place where the dead queens who do not take the throne are disposed of. And the queens that never got to possess the throne for themselves possess Catherine's body. And she ends up with the abilities of all the dead queens. So she's able to now pass off as being a poisoner, but she's also got the other gifts that they have. The second books, we start seeing events from Jules' point of view more often. Just as often as three queens, which annoyed me because I was going into a book with three sisters who were fighting for the crown, and I thought she was just an important side character as Arsenault's best friend who she was raised with. Jules is shown to be stronger than Arsenault naturally. She's the strongest naturalist of their generation, possibly ever. And she's been born with two gifts. The second gift, a war gift that has been bound at birth by her mother, because those with two gifts tend to go mad. We see in the third book that people have started building Jules up as the future queen instead of the triplet queens, especially when the natural balance of the world gets all out of whack. So while the books didn't end up being a fight to the death like I was expecting between the three sisters, I've still found this book an interesting read. We have the Briarca domain that I want to know more about, which Catherine was thrown into. We have the magical mist that is supposed to protect the island that are now turning on it and killing its own people. We have two queens alive when normally they should be dead when one of them has been crowned overall queen of the island. We have visions of a past queen who isn't exactly what she seems. I like learning about the past of the island in the little snippets that we see. And the book, by the end of the third, is no longer a fight to the death between the three sisters, but a fight for life and to stabilise everything. Book 3 ends with a cliffhanger, and I wish that I could jump right into book 4 that comes out later on in the year. I personally enjoyed 3 Dark Thrones, and I'll be getting book 4 when it comes out, even if I don't read it right away. So that's my first 2 fiction books completed for the year, which I found rather enjoyable. Right now with my channel, I'm currently trialling daily videos. Tomorrow's video will be a TV-based episode and I'll be talking about Doctor Who, so I'll see you then.